Hey guys, how are you? Welcome. So I am just checking on Wi-Fi here. It's a little weird. So it looks like I'm on. Great. Okay, I'm still on my iPad here trying to check to see what is happening. Okay, here we are. Let's try to open that page up. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, there we are. Yay, yay, yay. Jamie's here. Gabriella's here. Ah, my favorite leaders are here. I'm so happy you guys are here. All right. You did not get the notification. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm gonna have to look into that. Oh, you just got one. Oh, you just got on. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. Well, welcome, my friends. So another great session today. It is Lead with Intent. It is 1 p.m. Central Standard Time here in Austin, and it is cold today in Austin. I think it's like 36 degrees. So I've got heater on, socks on. I'm a little overwarmed. I even have tea here with me. Gabriela says she got the notification 3 minutes before. Oh, that's interesting. What, I don't know. I'm using Ecamm on my Mac laptop, so maybe that's why there's a disconnect between that and Facebook. I don't know, but I'm going to look into that, I promise. So this is our weekly show where conscientious leaders gather once a week so that we can talk about leadership. Remember, this is your show. We get to converse together. We get to share insights together. This is not about me, leading this. This is a group effort. We are all here to learn from one another because my leadership experience is very different than your leadership experience, right? And so that's what we're doing here. We're gathering together so that we can celebrate each other and help each other along our leadership journeys. Hi, Anne. I see you. I'm so glad we got Anne on, Gabriela's here, Jamie's here. If you're watching, say hello. And if you're on the replay, by the way, if you're watching this much later, we still want some hearts. We still want some love. Share in the comments below. Let us know that you're here. Watching the replay. So before we get started, because we've got a juicy topic, everyone. We got a good one today that I cannot wait to share with you. But before we talk about values, because values are very important, and we're going to get into this juicy topic in just a little bit. Before we do that, will you all please share some of your wins with me below? We last met Thursday, right? Again, we're here every Thursday at 1 p.m. So since last Thursday, will you share your wins below? I want to hear from you guys. Tell me if, a win at work, a win at home, a win at church, a win in your institutions, your organizations. If you're in an undergrad or graduate program, share some of your wins. We want to celebrate you. So use the hashtag win, and then tell us below. So if you can't think of it right now, no worries. And if you're watching the replay, we still want to celebrate your wins, because that's what leaders do. We celebrate each other. We empower one another. And that's what I want to do at the top of every session, every Thursday before we get into our juicy topic. I want for us to really embrace each other and celebrate one another. Gabriela says, I got to have coffee with Jamie. Oh my gosh, after way too long. Yeah, very nice. So Gabriela and Jamie, who are watching right now live, had coffee together, and they are good friends. And I'm so glad you guys, that's a big win. That's a really big win. And if you're watching, let us know some of your wins, and Jamie too. Let me know. Anyway, but if you can't think of it right now, we'll have plenty of time to share in your success. Okay, so let's talk about values. Ooh, this is such a great topic. I'm so excited. And I've got a really cool image here. I hope you guys can see this. I've got a delay on my iPad here, but I'm gonna see if it pops up here. So values. This quote right here is from Elvis Presley. Big fan of him and his music. Actually, any music I absolutely love. But he wrote, "Values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything you do," right? And so, like we talked about last time, we said you take your brain and your heart everywhere you go, which means you take your values everywhere you go, and they drive your decisions. And so this, I thought, was an appropriate quote to put up here. And by the way, I hope you guys are liking, I'm a one-woman show, so I've got images, I've got, graphics on my screen here. So I'm hoping you guys are appreciating that. So let's quickly see some comments here before we get into that topic of values. So Jamie writes, I said no to a meeting because I had to be close to my son's school. Yeah, Ryan has a slight sore throat, so I said no, and I'm staying close by. A win for me as a mother. That is so beautiful. I'm so happy you recognize that, Jamie. I mean, sometimes saying no can really is necessary so that we can replenish our souls and we can replenish our leadership. And so sometimes you just have to say no. Anne says, here's a win, accepting that she'll be graduating in December 2020 instead of May 2020. Just a misunderstanding, she writes on dates. And she accepted that it'll give her more time to save for a move. So I know Anne I won't share with the world, Anne, but I know where you're moving and I'm happy for you. And see, it's the mindset, right, that we've been learning about inside our private group. By the way, there's a private group called Align 365. If you're not in it, check it out. We'd love to have you join us. But we talk a lot about mindset and shifting mindset and perspective, right? So that we can win. So thank you for sharing your wins, everyone. You guys have some great wins. So let's get into the topic of values. So there was a recent survey by the Aspen Institute. They do this American Values Survey, and 7 out of 10 people that responded to this survey said that there's a sharp decline in values. And so what are values? I mean, first of all, values drive our decisions. They are the essence of our being. They drive our decisions in the workplaces we choose, in our spouses or partners we choose. Our personal decisions are driven by our values. And so, of course, leadership is driven by our values. So values are your guiding principles, right? They're your standards. And a lot of these values were programmed in us consciously or unconsciously when we were children. So let's talk a little bit about that and what happens in the brain as a child. So up until the age of 7 or 8 years old, you as a child are in a theta state brain level. And the theta brain level, so beta is you and I right now. It's the monkey brain. It's the conscious brain. We're attentive, we're listening, we're engaged. And then you move into the alpha brain where, you're a little more at peace. You're not hypersensitive, but you're still aware. And then you move into various levels of brain levels, brain waves. And the theta brain level is the trance-like state that a child is in. It is a hypnotic state. This is the state that hypnotists and hypnotherapists put their clients in so that they are impressionable, so that whatever message they deliver and the child or the person receives is more inclined to stay in their brains. And so that's what we talk about subconscious programming. This is what happens to our children up until the age of 7 or 8 years old. And this is the research. I'm not making this up. This is some serious research out there. And it shows that our parenting has a lot to do with the values, obviously, that our children then manifest or then, live by as adults. And so subconscious programming is really important. So if you're parents out there, which a lot of you are who are watching, this is what our children's brains are like, or the state that they're in up until around the 7 or 8 year old mark. And so values are what we learned as children. Some of us, inherited these values, again, through modeling from our parents. Sometimes, most of the times, obviously unconscious. And then not until we're adults do we realize, wow, I'm actually doing more damage than good because of these values that are guiding me. So it's important that as leaders, we're intentional, we're deliberate, and we do some of that deep introspective work. So let me be clear, leadership is not sexy. it is dirty and a lot of work. So the titles may be sexy, the power may be sexy, but leadership and coaching leaders is dirty. And we get really, really deep into the leaders' values and their guiding principles. And so it's important that we realize that as leaders, and even in our personal lives. I mean, think about, your personal relationships. Those of you who have, intimate relationships, what are the values that you share or don't share with your spouse? And so in preparation for this show, I listed my top three, which I will have you all do in a little bit, but I'm listing my top three values that guide every decision, and including business and intimate relationships. And I asked my husband to share his, and two of the three were exactly the same. And it's not like we've been together for, I guess, going on 10 years. And, it's not like we sat down and made a list of our values and said, okay, well, this one, you got to work on that, honey. Like that's not in alignment with my values. I mean, you don't do that. You don't explicitly do that. But in preparing for the show, I wanted to, get his input on this, and he shared his. And it was so interesting to see that even after 10 years, two out of the three guiding values, he and I share. So that's so cool. So think about that, as a partner, as a spouse, as a mother, as a father, what are your values? What are your guiding principles and standards? Remember, these influence your thoughts and your feelings. So values right here, which we learned as children, and I talked a little bit about the subconscious programming, and there's so much more we can talk about that as leaders, and we should know about that. But your values influence your thoughts and your feelings. And then your thoughts and your feelings influence your behaviors and your actions. So think about that. I mean, there's a chain reaction here. So if you are a conscientious individual or a conscientious leader, well, then this serves you very well. We have to look into what your values are and what values are guiding you. And so let's talk a little bit about shared values in an organization. So a lot of you here are either in higher education, public policy, healthcare, academics, whatever industry you're in, and the organization that you work for. I want for you to pay close attention to those shared values. Now, sometimes they are displayed explicitly, especially when you're a new hire and you're going through employee orientation. There's a list of core values that the organization stands by, and this is what we all share. And as someone who has a human resource master's degree, it's a dual master's in HR development and in management. My intention was never to go into HR. My intention was to really understand employment law, the policies and regulations that our organizations have to adhere to, federal and state guidelines. And I was very interested in that, but not interested in actually going into the human resource field. So that was why I did what I did with that master's degree. But think about your HR people in your organization. These are the individuals who receive and collect these applicants and applications, right? This person probably has a system, a software that they use to weed out certain words, to weed out certain people. They're looking for shared values, adjectives that the organization shares. So they have a system in place. And this is how, large organizations like Google and Apple probably use to weed out the applicants that already in their language do not show that they would be the right fit in this organization. So think about that. Then the individual gets the applicant that actually made through the process of being weeded out. And the HR manager looks at this applicant's cover letter and then starts giving that human attention to this application. And they're looking at what you're writing, and they're looking at the adjectives that describe you. They're looking at what your experiences and what you wrote about your experiences and what you can contribute and what you can give to the organization. And if you're lucky, my friends, you then move into the hiring manager, the department leader's desk. And that was something I did. I was the receiving end. So when I would get these applicants and I would hire, dozens and dozens of faculty when I ran a department at a community college. I had over 80 faculty and staff, and so I had a lot of adjuncts. And then, of course, professional and classified full-timers that I hired. And so when they would get to my desk, they were already very screened because we wanted to make sure that these applicants had shared values. So the HR does all the weeding, and then the hiring department managers or directors or leaders, are the ones who ultimately make those decisions to proceed with interviewing. So think about those shared values. And think about that process from when you're applying for a position in an organization and the words that they're looking for and your experiences that are in alignment with their shared values and their core values. So if you guys are out there and you're looking for leadership opportunities, it is in your interest to do some research on these organizations and yes, adhere to those, modify your cover letters, modify your words so that you're not immediately eliminated even before you get to a human actually reviewing your applicant. So look at those shared values. And we're going to get to an exercise in just a little bit. Yes, again, I did say leadership is not sexy. So if you guys are watching who think that having a formal title and the power and the authority and the responsibility that comes with leadership, if you think that's sexy, it's not. It is actually very dirty and a whole lot of work. And that's what we're talking about today, guys, is taking an introspective look so that we can identify our values and those values that drive our decisions, because, values drive our thoughts and feelings, which then therefore drive our actions and behaviors as leaders. So something I want to share with you before we get into a super quick exercise. I had a client who was in a very public, visible position, and she was elected an elected official. That's all I can say. And this individual, unfortunately, before we stopped working together, was having some marital issues. And so I did learn a little bit about her intimate issues with her husband. And we left each other fine. She said, we'll pick up coaching much, much later. I said, no problem. I will be here when you're ready. 6-7 months later, she calls me up and says, well, I need your help. But actually, it's not for me. It's so that you can coach my husband. And so I said, well, yeah, sure. What's happening? What's going on with your husband? And she said, well, I got caught. Yeah, I know. I know it hits me in the gut every time. Listen, I'm not at all judging or condemning anyone. But what happened was this husband gave her an ultimatum: either leave this extramarital relationship, or I will expose you. So he gave her an ultimatum, and for her, that didn't sit well with her. She said, oh no, I can have it all, and I can be all, do all, and have my cake and eat it too. And so she wanted me to intervene and play marriage counselor, and which I'm not. I'm a life and leadership coach. Let's be very clear. There's clear distinctions between a therapist, a counselor, and a coach. And I said, absolutely not. I said, I don't judge you, but your values are questionable, which means your leadership is questionable. But I'm not here to condemn you. I'm not here to judge you. I just want for you to take an introspective look at those values that are driving your decisions. Plus, you're an elected official. I've got a problem with that. And I wanted to stay far away from that situation. And I did. And I hope all is well with them. But you guys have to really understand that, we're only human, right? We're not mere mortals. I mean, we are mere mortals. We're not immortal. We have a lot of challenges, and we have a lot of issues, and a lot of us are broken, and a lot of us are damaged. And what do? We take this into our organizations, and we take this into our leadership positions. And so I really implore that you take a strong look at these values that are driving your decisions. So let's get to work, guys. I want to get you guys going on our first question. So if you're watching watching, hello. Let me know who you are. If you're new, welcome to Lead with Intent. This is where conscientious leaders gather every week, Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I have got, let's see. Oh, Monica's here. Hi, Anna's here. Edith is here. Very nice. I'm so glad you guys are watching, and then everyone else who joined us earlier. So let's get to our first assignment, identifying your 3 personal values. So I'll share with you mine. My first one is loyalty. So those of you who are watching, who know me personally, then you know how loyal I am. You know that I will move heaven and earth for you, because that's how much I value friendships and relationships. Loyalty is number 1 on my list, and that is a guiding value. It is a guiding principle. And it's something that really has served me as a professor with my students and the relationships I have with my students. And so, and now as a coach with my clients. So loyalty is something that drives me. Number 2, my second one is trust. The second you destroy that is actually the second I walk away from a relationship. So trust, again, is another a driving value for me. And the third one is respect. So loyalty, trust, and respect. And so I want for you to take a moment and reflect on your values, and whether they're good or bad, whether they're, you're conscious or unconscious of them right now. If they're on the edge of your brain, then they're easy to identify. And if they're not, then take some time with this exercise, because a lot of these values are unconscious to us. And not until we're in trouble do we realize, oh, shoot, like I got to change some things. Like these values aren't serving me. And so I want for you guys to take a moment and identify those 3 personal values. And the second question, how do these values influence your decisions? I just gave you a few examples of how loyalty, trust, and respect drive my personal decisions, and how that obviously spills into my leadership practice and how I serve my clients and how I serve my students. So how do these 3 personal values influence your personal decisions? And the next question here, how do these values influence your leadership? So let's get really clear on that. Gabriela, thank you so much for answering. Gabriela's are honesty, loyalty, and clear communication. Yeah. And so now that Gabriela has identified her 3 personal values, she's now able to answer question number 2 and number 3. So how does honesty, loyalty, and clear communication drive Gabriela's personal decisions? So she'll have to answer that for herself. And so the third one is, how do these values influence your leadership? Jamie says, loyalty for sure is her number 1. Yeah, mine too, sister. Her second is authenticity, and her third is balance. I love that. And that's coming from a really great mom who serves, obviously as a great mom, but, in her public life, she's also she's very authentic. You know exactly where you stand with Jamie, because I know her personally. And loyalty. Yeah, we've been friends since grade school. So Jamie and I go way, way, way back. So I know that for certain. And so now that she's identified her 3, she can then answer question number 2 and question number 3. And so question number 4 is, are you living or leading? Are you living and leading in alignment with your values? So let's take a deeper look at that. And again, we're conscientious leaders here. That's the whole point of this show, Lead with Intent. We're not passing observers. If you are in a leadership position, you owe your constituents, you owe your stakeholders, you owe your employees, your followers, you owe them to do this introspective work. This is not at all sexy work. This is, again, very dirty and can get a little grimy, because we got to look at some of these values that have been guiding us our entire lives. And so if you are early on your leadership journey, because I have a lot of students who just graduated with their undergrads and who are considering graduate programs, but they want to get some experience right now in leadership, and they're out there hustling. And so if you're just starting on that journey, or if you're in the C-suite already, which a lot of my clients are. They are CEOs, COOs, CFOs, or even board of directors. I don't care where you're at on this spectrum, on this range. You have to be deliberate and intentional, and you have to start leading with intent. So get to doing some of this work. So let's start then in looking at these 3 personal values. Now we have dozens of values, I'm sure, that drive us, but I just want for you to identify your top 3 right now. And then I want you to answer question 2, 3, and 4. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to comment below too. Let us know what your 3 personal values are. Anne says honesty has to be number 1 with her. Very good. And trust go hand in hand for her. Yeah, honesty and trust right there at number 1. 2 is loyalty, and 3 is respect. Yeah, I love that. Very good, very good, Anne. And Anne has done a lot of introspective work, right, Anne? You've done some really amazing work with mindset and perspective. And Anne is doing the work. She's doing the internal work to be a great leader. Jamie says, yes, I'm living and leading, but I need more time on question 2 and 3 because honestly, I've never stopped to reflect. That's a good point, Jamie, that you bring up. If you guys are reading the comments, Jamie brought up something very, very important, and that's we're on the go. We're on the go raising families, right? Raising children, raising families, running organizations, running nonprofits, running, all of these extra organization, community work, right? Which I know Jamie does very well. So, we're on the go all the time, and we don't make the time to stop and reflect. And I think that's when we finally go, when we meet an obstacle and we can no longer pass that with our own will and with our own internal abilities, we then look for people like me, like a coach, to help them through that. But you don't need me. You guys just need to stop and reflect. So thank you for pointing that out. Stop and reflect some of these things. And if these values are not in congruence, right? They're not congruent with your values are not congruent with your leadership or how you're living your life, then you can still do something about it. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how much experience you have. I don't care where you're at on this range of leadership. You are able to change this. So awareness is first and foremost, but you got to stop so that you can have time to reflect and become aware of these things. So thank you for sharing that, Jamie. Yeah, Anne is responding to my comment. She said it is tough but worth it. So Anne, as I just mentioned, is doing the work. It's tough. It's grimy. It's dirty. It's sometimes we do everything to deflect and detach from what's really wrong in our lives. And so if you want to be a great leader, we can't keep running away from ourselves, right? We can't create by default. We cannot lead by default. And that was the whole point of creating this show. Yeah, Anne also agrees with Jamie. Yeah, Gabriela says these values are the pillar to moving forward with me. Indeed. So I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Anna, hi. Yes, Anna's here. Her 3 personal values are loyalty, honesty, and patience. Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. I love that. Amazing. Thank you. Jamie also writes, genetically speaking, are there certain values that without a doubt come from our parents? I perhaps biologically, perhaps, I can immediately think of diseases because alcoholism is a disease, and I'm always thinking of that, and I'm always hyper aware of that because my father was an alcoholic. So his behaviors, because he was an addict, they drive me to not overindulge. So perhaps that, because my dad's values were a little skewed, again, no judgment, please. But that's what I saw growing up, that he did not value love and did not value, his wife, valued us, but had a lot of questionable values. And so because of what I saw him do, his actions and behaviors, because of those values that drove him, I just completely went the opposite way and married someone who doesn't drink and am very intentional with my drinking. So, I mean, again, values drive your thoughts and feelings, and which therefore drive your actions and behaviors. So, if you identify some of those actions that you witnessed as a child that you can remember and you can recall from your parents that did not serve you, then I want for you to be intentional about that, be hyper aware of them so that they don't drive you, so that you're not leading, or not creating by default, right? Like you're actually being intentional in doing the complete opposite of that, right? So thank you for asking that. But I'm sure there's some research on that. But it's really the actions and behaviors that are driven by values. So if you look at your parents' values and they're questionable, then obviously their actions were questionable. Maybe through how we got brought up. Yeah, exactly. The values that you witnessed. Yes, Gabriela, exactly. Yeah, speaking to my point in that, it was the behaviors and the actions that we saw growing up, right? Yeah. So Jamie writes, I'm not sure. Oh, no, Anne is responding to Jamie. Thank you so much for doing that. Ah, very good. Very good. So you guys, if you're watching the replay, will you all give us some love? I'm at 1:30. The show's only supposed to be 20 minutes. So I'm so sorry. Next time I'll get to the point. But I hope you guys are liking the graphics. I hope you guys are liking this little setup I have with Ecamm here. Stay tuned for next Thursday. We're gonna have another great topic. Let's explore. Let's expand on this conversation about values. Let's look at habits. Let's look at some other driving forces that we as leaders need to be aware of and intentional of. So stay tuned for next Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time here with me in Austin. And if you're watching the replay, we still love some love. So give us some likes, give us some hearts, and please, please, please respond to these amazing questions. At least I think they're amazing. They're very introspective. These are the same questions I ask my clients. So get to some work so that you guys can start leading with intent. So thank you guys so much, and I will catch you all next Thursday. See you later. Bye.